From New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Friday?
Last week of the season, of the regular season.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick the games this week because there's so many teams are either resting players, other teams, out of it. Who are they going to play? It makes it more difficult. It's hard to pick the games this week, I think.
I'm going to give a little teaser to our picks. Focus on the incentives that some teams have. Some teams are going for incentives. Mike Evans trying to get his 1,000 yards, and also the Bucs are still trying to seal their playoff spot. The Rams are playing Jimmy Garoppolo, but the Seattle Seahawks, Geno Smith is going for a big-time incentive as well. So a lot to talk about throughout the entire show. We got a lot to break down. But let's get into some, I wouldn't say soul-crushing, in my opinion, news, because the Eagles have decided to rest Saquon Barkley for their last game of the season against the New York Giants, basically saying we're going to keep you healthy and rested for the playoffs. Barkley, who has 2,005 rushing yards this season, is just 101 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record, which was set 40 years ago. Like I said, while this ensures that Barkley is ready and healthy for the postseason, it denies him the chance to make history and break that 40-year record against his former team in his first season with that rival, the New York Giants rival, the Philadelphia Eagles. So my question is, we talked about this on Tuesday. I was heavily in favor of Saquon playing. Do you have a problem, though, with the Eagles deciding to sit Saquon Barkley and also a lot of their starters as well for that final game?
I said early in the week that I didn't have a problem with it. I would prefer to see Barkley get the record. I like Barkley a lot. We have his jersey hanging up in back of us, and an autographed jersey when he was with the Giants. So we root for him, and I like the way his career has gone. We said earlier in the season that, well before the season started, that we thought he'd have a big year. Did we think it would be this big? Probably not. But wow, he could have gotten the record. But to me, the more I look at the record, I think it's more about a player who gets 2,000 yards. That's a pretty select company, and I want to talk about that in a minute. But some of the things that Barkley said, Sirianni said he'll probably be somebody that rests. So he didn't say outright that he wasn't going to play. He's only 101 yards short of Dickerson's record. Barkley said it kind of would have been a full circle moment, but at the end of the day, it wasn't in God's plan. I've got bigger things in mind, and we get a chance to rest and get ready for the playoffs. Sirianni asked him if he wanted to play, if he wanted to go for it, and Barkley said, I said on Sunday that I'd probably didn't care much for it. When I slept on it, it was apparently it was an opportunity to impact my name in football history, and I may never get an opportunity like that again. So I'm down, but at the end of the day, I don't care for putting the team at risk. He also said, I let Sirianni know, if you let me play, I'm going to go out there and make sure I get it. And if you don't, I'm okay with that too. The Eagles have all played 12 straight games. Their bye week was back in week 5. So resting the players, I think, makes the most sense. It's tough because it would be fun to watch that game with Barkley only needing the 101 yards and playing against the Giants. Sirianni's decision was based on input from a lot of people, he said. Barkley's father was quite upset about it. He took it the hardest. But raised him to be all about team. So the Barkley mentioned that. So he thinks he'll get over it. If he broke it against the Giants, he said it wouldn't be a revenge game. Be about revenge. It'd be about the Giants people who helped him along the way. Hurts remains in concussion protocol, so they're going to be resting a lot of their players.
So what about the thing about
you do your thing, and then I'll come back to that.
Well, I'm not a fan of this at all. I said on Tuesday that if you have this opportunity in this particular scenario, it's the perfect place to do it. I understand that Barkley will say everything correct in public about how, no, it's not revenge. It's all about the people that brought me here and lifted me up to this point and made me the player I am today. That's all great. Everybody knows Saquon Barkley in private, this is something that is very meaningful to him. That's why he went out and had his best game. He had over 10 yards a carry against the Giants, 17 carries, 179 yards, and a touchdown. It was one of his best games on the biggest stage because it was against his former team. He got absolutely screwed over this offseason. The Giants wouldn't match the Eagles' offer, which is $250,000 more per year. And Saquon has said throughout his career that he wanted to be a lifelong Giant. And Joe Shane came up with a brilliant ideology of, we're paying a $40 million quarterback. I don't want him handing it off to a $12 million running back. That made no sense. Because if you look at some of the biggest teams, they're paying a bunch of guys. Joe Burrow made it to the Super Bowl, and now Jamar Chase is going to probably get Justin Jefferson money. That's what's going to happen. And you know what? That's a $55 million quarterback throwing it to a $35 million wide receiver. You pay your guys. You pay the biggest guys on your team to make the biggest impact. So the fact that the Giants wouldn't do that and instead opted to pay a guy who's no longer on the team after 2 seasons, not even a full 2 seasons, that's an issue. This would have been the perfect time to do it. Going up against the Giants, you could have absolutely decimated them, forced them to do something they've never done in their franchise's history, and that's go winless against a division. You're the last pillar in making history on several fronts. The first one would be, like I just said, being the first, or making the Giants be the first team in their franchise history, the 2024 Giants, to be winless against their own division, and you get to break down a 40-year rushing record held by Eric Dickerson that now falls in Saquon's hands. Now, I know people say, but the 17th game, and I'm sure a lot of people now realize that I think carries are more important than games. Saquon Barkley has like 30 fewer carries than Eric Dickerson has. And we have to remember that this also has MVP implications because Adrian Peterson was less than 10 yards away, and he was able to win the MVP in a 61-39% vote against Peyton Manning in 2012. Well, guess what? Saquon, up until this point, before they announced that he was not going to be starting, he was third in MVP voting, and the numbers were shrinking. So I think if Saquon goes out there, drops another 180-yard game, which is very plausible with the offensive line, with Saquon's talent, then guess what? He'll probably creep higher and higher in the MVP conversation, and especially because we saw Lamar's numbers jump up when Josh Allen had a mid-game against the Patriots. If he has another okay mid-game against the Patriots, he probably won't even play most of the game. He'll get out there, continue his start streak, and then bench himself. Well, then guess what? Lamar still needs to play because he still has to get the seeding for the AFC North. Well, guess what? If that's the case, then Josh Allen's MVP odds are going to shrink. Lamar Jackson will, I'm sure, have a perfectly fine game against the Cleveland Browns team that is actually terrible. So the competition, I think, would really come down to the new rushing record holder in Saquon Barkley and Lamar Jackson. And I think if you set an NFL record that's been standing for multiple decades, you should get a very good MVP nod. And this is also a personal thing. Running backs, and especially in an era where running backs are honestly out the back door right now, what, a year ago, 2 years ago, we were debating on, the value of the running back position and how they're a very replaceable position. You really have a 5-6 year window for very good running backs to have their peak performance, to have their prime. Well, guess what? Saquon Barkley is 27 years old? And he even said in his quote in the locker room that he may not be here again. He may not be in this situation again. That's true. Because there's been no other running back in NFL history to have two 2,000-yard seasons. This is a perfect opportunity for to do it. I think it's a completely bad idea to bench him. Yeah, you could talk about the injury risk, and I've said this before. You could have injury risk when you do anything. Anything. Lamar Jackson, I think, was on a beach, and there was some incident. I forget what exactly it was, but he was just chilling on the beach doing something, and then he flipped over. So I forget the exact details of it. But that's on a bye week. That's in the offseason. You can get hurt. I mean, Rodgers going out there doing ayahuasca trips. You could do what? You could get injured. You could do crazy things whenever it happens. So the injury thing, yeah, that's a possibility, but I wouldn't say that it's the end-all, be-all reason. Yes, you can't move in the seating. That's fine. But you have an opportunity to set an NFL record here. Eric Dickerson's not quite happy with it. So what? I'm sure Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wasn't happy when LeBron James broke his scoring record. But you respect the guy. You shake his hand, say, congratulations, the record's yours. Records are meant to be broken. Will Brady's passing records be surpassed by Mahomes? With the way the NFL's going? Probably. And then we'll be having the same conversation now of should Mahomes do it? No, I mean, I think this is stupid. I would 100% do it if I was Nick Sirianni. And this Eagles team relies heavily on vibes because we hear so many bad things when they're winning, and then all of a sudden they implode. What about raising your morale level? Because right now, Nick Sirianni's job could potentially be on the line with another playoff just debacle and crumble job. So, no, I think this is a massive mistake. Eagles are doing wrong by Saquon by doing this.
Okay, well, I do think that Josh Allen is going to win the MVP. He hasn't won one, and he's had a great season. I think the voters are going to favor him a little bit because he hasn't won one. Lamar's won two. I think they get a little voter fatigue to give him three, even if he has a great game on Sunday. I don't think Barkley was in the mix to really win it. It's always gone to a quarterback since 2001, except for 3 or 4 occasions when it did go to a running back, and that was, Adrian Peterson, I think, is the last one to win the MVP in 2012. So it's been a long time. I think it's going to be Josh Allen, but in terms of the record, I think there's several ways to look at it. There are 9 players that have exceeded 2,000 yards now in NFL history. O.J. Simpson had 2,003 yards on 332 carries. Eric Dickerson has the most yards, 2,105 on 379 carries. Barry Sanders, 2,053 on 335 carries. Terrell Davis, 2,008 yards on 392 carries. Jamal Lewis, 2,066 yards, 387 carries. Chris Johnson, 2,006 yards on 358 carries. Adrian Peterson, 2,097 on 348 carries. Derrick Henry, 2,027 on 378 carries. And Barkley now 2,005 yards on 345 carries. Now, some of these players didn't play 17 games to get the 2,000 yards. O.J. Simpson got 2,003 yards in 14 games.
But why do the games matter? It's the carries that
I know, but just hear me out, okay? You're going to finish my analysis here. Yeah. So he averaged 6.3 yards a carry and almost 24 carries a game. If you extrapolated his effort based on yards per carry, right? And you took that the number of carries he would have had in 2 extra games, right? That would add to his rushing total, and he would have gotten 2,288 yards. So he would have passed Eric Dickerson on that basis. If you did it based on number of carries and the yards per carry and equal Dickerson's carries, right, who had 379, OJ had 332, then he still would have beaten Dickerson at 2,289 yards. So, that's a factor to take into consideration, I think. Particularly the carries, I agree with you, is the most important statistic. If you look at Barry Sanders, he had 335 carries. If you normalize that 379, he would have had 2,322. He would have passed both O.J. and Eric Dickerson. He had the best years, over 6 yards a carry. Had the highest per carry yards in his 2,000-yard season. And he only carried the ball less than 20 times. He was the only back to carry the ball a little less than 20 times a game, 19.7. You look at Barkley. He has 34 less carries than Dickerson had, 345 versus 379. You extrapolate that based on his 5.8 yards per carry. He would have gotten, and his 22 carries per game. He would have gotten, or 34, let's say, 34 to equal Dickerson. He would have gotten 2,203. That would have passed Dickerson. So, there's 3 players here, Simpson, Sanders, and Barkley, that would have passed Dickerson. And also, actually, there's more. Adrian Peterson would have passed him.
Yeah, well, obviously.
Chris Johnson would have passed him.
If you all do 17 games.
There's two more because their carries were 358 and 348. So you normalize that at 379. They would have passed him too. So, all things being equal, I'd say Dickerson's lucky to have the record and people recognize him for it. But to me, it's more about who got 2,000 yards. And if I were Barkley, I'd be thinking more in that regard than I would be about passing Eric Dickerson.
Well, yeah. Again, I don't quite understand. Are you saying that if you make all the carries equal, and then you just add the averages? By the way, O.J. Simpson didn't have 6.3 yards attempt. He had 6.0.
No, I said
you said 6.3.
No, I didn't. 6.03. 6.03 were his yards per carry.
I care more about carries because that shows efficiency. Like, for instance, Saquon Barkley has more yards per attempt than Dickerson had.
5.8.
So he was carrying the ball at a more efficient clip than Eric Dickerson.
Yeah, well,
was.
Eric Dickerson carried the ball about 24 times a game.
Exactly.
Barkley at 22.
So Saquon had a buffer, so that game thing, to me, doesn't matter in the least because it doesn't matter who carried the ball.
There were 4 games he didn't play in the fourth quarter. If he'd had those, so you probably would have gotten the record easily.
Exactly.
Before even this game.
Right. And I do not like that argument at all because Eric Dickerson played an extra game in order to distance himself from O.J. Simpson. He didn't need that extra game.
Well,
because he already broke it the week before, so he did it in 15 games.
Okay, but in history,
this is history.
But it was wise for him to go for that extra game because then others would have beat him.
Correct.
Yeah, he would have been beaten several times.
But that's why I don't think the game argument matters because Dickerson literally did that.
Adrian Peterson would have been the winner.
Well, right.
2097.
Right, but here's my thing. The argument about the game is that he played an extra game. So did Eric Dickerson. Dickerson broke it in 15 games. But yet he played the 16th game and got like 90 more yards. Yeah, to distance himself. Saquon Barkley playing this extra game, he would need nearly 30 carries in order to match the amount of attempts Dickerson had. And I think if you give him 30 carries against the giant sieve of a defensive line, he would have had 2,100 yards easily.
He would have broken the record with just running on his average of 22 carries a game. He didn't need 30.
What about just yards a game?
He would have gotten 2,130 if he just averaged what he normally gets, 125 yards a game.
Right.
That's his average.
So exactly.
So he would have broken the record. He doesn't have to get 34 carries to break the record.
And that's why I think that the game argument doesn't matter. Because it's who's running the ball better. And Saquon Barkley has run the ball at an insane clip. 5.8 yards a carry, which is the, I think, third best out of the group of 2,000-yard rushers. What, 6.0, 6.0, 6.1,
Adrian Peterson, 6.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, because two people are tied at 6.0, yeah. So I don't like the game argument to me doesn't hold any value to it because it doesn't matter who's running the ball better, who's running it at a more efficient level. Saquon, honestly, he has this third fewest carries amongst the 2,000-yard rushers.
Well, all these guys carried the ball.
It's a record that stood for 40 years. You're able to do it at home against your former team.
And they carried the ball as many times as Eric Dickerson had, then Eric Dickerson would have been 4th on the list.
Well, you would also need to make all of these guys play more games then.
Well, he would have been 5th on the list, sorry.
Right, but
6th.
In order for them to...
He would have been 6th on the list, sorry. He would have been 6th on the list.
How many average carries did O.J. Simpson have per game?
23. Almost 24.
So he would need 17 games, basically, to get to Eric Dickerson's attempts. He had 14 games. He had 332 carries. That's about what? That's 47.
Yeah, 47, but that's about what his carries were averaging. He was averaging 24, so two more games, so that's 47.
So it's all even.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the yards would obviously go up, but so would Chris Johnson's, Terrell Davis, Derrick Henry's, Barry Sanders, Jamal Lewis, Adrian Peterson.
On the
all
carries,
of them would go up.
On the carries basis, OJ would have beat him. Barry Sanders would have beat him.
Because they all would have had to play an extra game. They all would have played 17,
Adrian
15,
Peterson
17
would have beat
games.
him, and Barkley would.
Right, but they all would have need to play that extra game,
and
or more than one.
Barry
game.
Sanders would have been the
right,
leader.
But they would need to have played an extra game or two in O.J. Simpson's case to get to Eric Dickerson's amount. Because if you're saying that he's about 40 carries away from Eric Dickerson in 14 games, they would have matched in 16 games apiece. Yeah. So they would need to play more to get to Eric Dickerson's amount to pass him.
Yeah, or they would have had to have more carries in the games that they played.
Which obviously you can't rewrite history, so we have to go off that first part, which is they would need to play more.
That's what I'm saying. What I did was an extrapolation. I'm just saying I'm
looking at the facts.
I don't think that Eric Dickerson's record to me at 2,105 is. I think it's more about the players that have gotten 2,000 yards, and there's not very many of them. There's only 9 of them.
Correct.
In NFL history. To me, that's the more important factor.
So you have no problem.
They're all close. They're all close. They're very close to one another. All these guys.
Define close.
They're over 2,000 yards, and Eric Dickerson got 2,105. So they're all within less than 100 yards of him. Every one of them.
No, OJ's 102, but whatever. So you have no problem with Saquon Barkley going against the second worst rush defense against his former team that he just left this offseason being 101 yards away. You have no problem with the Eagles deciding to sit him when he has an opportunity to set NFL history.
I said I would like to see him play. I think it'd be fun to watch.
But you just said it's more about the 2,000 yards than it is about breaking the record.
It's more about the 2,000 yards. I don't have a problem with him sitting. I don't have a problem with him sitting. If he went out there and got hurt, then they'd be all up in arms. So I think that he's played 12 games without a rest. Their bye week came early in the season. Many of these other teams they're going to be facing had later bye weeks.
You don't need to start everybody.
I think that's a good strategy. Hurts is out. He's got
been out,
concussion protocol.
He's been out the past 2-3 weeks.
So they're going to be, I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. Pickett is also hurt.
But hold on. Hurts has been out. This will be his 3rd week out.
Yeah.
So that I don't get where you're coming from on that one. He's been out. They're going to hand the ball off anyway.
Yeah.
So why does Hurts being out matter? He was going to be out anyway.
I just think it's not a game they need.
Correct. It's not a game they need, but there's an opportunity for him to set the record.
That's what they're going to do. They've made their choice, and Barkley says he's fine with it. So,
well, of course
I don't have a problem.
He's in front of the media. He's not going to rip on his head coach.
You have a problem with it. I don't.
Yeah, because you're 101 yards away against your former team who left you for dead, essentially, to go to your division rival, and it's a 40-year record, and you could potentially win the MVP award because Josh Allen's going to play 5 snaps in the game.
Barkley says he holds no grudges against the Giants.
Of course he would say that because he's a nice
it's
guy in public.
It's not a revenge game. So it's not a revenge game.
Any competitor going up against your former team when you have an opportunity to embarrass them on the national stage, you're telling me a competitor should be like, it's whatever. I could take it or leave it. Of course not.
Taking what he said.
He's a competitor. Of course, yes, in public he'll say that. But he's a competitor, a former team who left you for dead, and then you went to the division rival, and you're showing that you're having the best season of your career, one of the best seasons a running back has ever had, and you're like, former team, worst defense, worst rushing defense in the league, at home in front of my new home crowd. It's whatever. I don't believe it for a second. Because it's in the public. Of course I'll say that. But let's get into our next topic here. So, the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions will face off in a Week 18 showdown to determine the NFC North as well as the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Detroit Lions have a high-flying offense, while the Vikings, well, they do have a very good offense. They're built heavily on Brian Flores' blitz-heavy and turnover-heavy defense as well. Early in the season, the Lions and the Vikings did play, and the Lions were able to edge out a 31-29 victory over the Minnesota Vikings on a game-winning field goal. But obviously, Minnesota is determined to even the score with the stakes even higher with, like I mentioned earlier, the NFC North and the number 1 seed in the NFC on the line here. So the question is, can the Vikings get revenge on the Lions and pull off this upset?
I think it's very possible. I'm going to pick the I'm going to pick the Lions principally because they're playing at home, but I do think it's very possible that the Vikings could beat them. And I think the incentive here for both teams is the loser falls to the 5 seed. I mean, it's not like they fall to number 2; they fall all the way to number 5. And so this makes it the biggest regular season game I think in the Vikings history, and the biggest game certainly for Darnold's career. The hype is huge here. It's the first time in NFL history that 2 teams with 14 wins have met to decide the division title. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing. The loser will travel either to the Rams or Tampa Bay, assuming the Bucs beat the Panthers. And I don't think either of them want to do that. We'll likely have to win 3 road games to reach the Super Bowl because they won't get a home win unless a top seed ahead of them loses. 14 wins for a wild card team sets a new record. That's what it's going to be. And the Lions have won 4 straight over the Vikings. The last one was 31-29 in Week 7. The 2 teams have combined for 13 Pro Bowl selections. There's a lot of talent on both teams. The Viking defense leads the league in takeaways. I think the keys for the Vikings to win the rushing battle. The Vikings are number 2 run defense versus the Lions number 6 in rushing. I think they have a good shot here because Montgomery is hurt. He's not going to play. It's all Gibbs. Win the turnover battle to slow down the Lions' second-ranked offense. Here, the Vikings are plus 10 in turnovers, but against the Lions, unfortunately, they've turned the ball over way too many times. They've lost 4 straight against the Lions, turning the ball over 9 times in the last 4 games. So that's been a problem for them. They have to turn that. They have to correct that. They got to pressure Goff. Last time they played, Goff had 22 of 25, 280 yards, 2 TDs in the game, despite being sacked 4 times and being hit 7 other times. Stop the Lions on 4th down attempts. I'm sure there's going to be a few of those given Dan Gamble's strategy and his philosophy. They got to protect Darnold against the Lions blitz. The Lions had 4 sacks in the first game. The Vikings receivers need to outplay the Lions' suspect cornerbacks. Carlton Davis is out with a fractured jaw, so I think those are the 6 keys to the Lions' win on the to the Vikings' chances to win. The Lions, on the other hand, their keys to victory. The Lions' offense continue to be better than the Vikings' defense. They've scored 30-plus points in the last 4 straight games against the Vikings' defense. Continue to get turnovers. They've had 9 in the last 4 wins. That's big. Sack Darnold. Plus 10 sack differential in the last 4 games against the Vikings. So the stats look good and history for the Lions. I would say the most important player in this game is Darnold because the Lions have given up the highest QBR rating since Week 11 when they have all these injuries on defense, 73 since Week 11. So if Darnold plays really well, I think there's a good chance that the Vikings can pull out a win on the road. But as I said, I'm going to pick the Lions because they are playing at home.
Well, I think that Darnold has played very well throughout the entire season, but there are moments where he doesn't play well. He had a 74 passer rating against the Chicago Bears, and they won 30-12. So even when Sam Darnold doesn't play great, they could still come out with some big-time victories. They beat the let me go to my screen. They beat the Indianapolis Colts 21-3. Darnold, he had a decent completion percentage. He had a very completion percentage, but he also had 2 interceptions. I mean, even when Darnold plays terrible, they still win. Against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where Mac Jones got the only touchdown in the entire game and Sam Darnold threw 3 picks, they still ended up winning. So even when Darnold plays poorly, they do pull out some very, very nice victories. The only loss that they had were a shocking one against the Los Angeles Rams, and then the game losing for the Vikings, but for the Lions, it was the game-winning field goal to make them lose 31-29. I'm picking the Lions in this game because this is something that Dan Campbell needs. The Lions need this. They're way too banged up of a team to go out there and just kind of get steamrolled. The San Francisco 49ers, which weren't a great team, they haven't been a good team at all this entire season. They did a number on this Detroit defense, and it was only because Kirby Joseph made 2 phenomenal interceptions that this didn't go into overtime maybe, or the 49ers pull out an insane victory over the Detroit Lions. So they either need to be an opportunistic defense, which they have been, like we just saw against the San Francisco 49ers, or they need to somehow go back to earlier in the season, even though they lost Aiden Hutchinson, and get to the quarterback and make him uncomfortable. But even if they get to Sam Darnold, it won't really matter, because in this game between Sam Darnold and Jared Goff, I mean, Sam Darnold had nearly an 82% completion percentage, which is ridiculous. He only had 1 touchdown, but this was a 31-29 game riding on the line, and Jake Bates hits a great game-winning field goal for the Detroit Lions. Goff, again, he went 22 of 25, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And Sam Darnold only got sacked 1 singular time in this game. And I think that the loss of Montgomery, that won't really matter, because Montgomery didn't have a great game in the original meeting between these two teams. He only had 9 carries for 31 yards. Meanwhile, Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. And we have to realize that even with the loss of David Montgomery, Gibbs has done a perfectly fine job. They average 149 rushing yards since David Montgomery went down. So the running efficiency hasn't really taken a ding whatsoever, and that's because that's just how great the 2 running backs are. They're the 6th best running team in the NFL. They have the 3rd best rushing defense in the NFL. So I think they'll get a serious slowdown on Aaron Jones and make Sam Darnold become one-dimensional. And if you do that, I think that while there can be moments of Sam Darnold greatness, there also comes moments of Sam Darnold recklessness, which could be throws an interception, makes a bad play, crucial 3rd and short, and he screws it up. They have to punt the ball away in a crucial situation. The worst thing the Lions could do is do what they did against the Buffalo Bills, and with 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter, announce they're doing an onside kick to try to steal a possession because your defense can't stop anybody. That would be red light, sound the alarms. This is a serious situation, because that just proves that Dan Campbell doesn't trust his own team. And if Dan Campbell doesn't believe in you during the game, that's going to be an issue. And I think that with the way that these weeks are panning out to be, I think the Seahawks are going to force the Rams to lose this game, which would then ultimately mean that the Rams would drop to, I believe, I don't know how the tiebreakers work exactly, but they would be 10-7, and I think Tampa's going to win, making them 10-7. And I don't believe they played. I could be wrong. I'm trying to look through the schedule quickly. They did not play the season. So whatever the tiebreaker is, if you play the Bucs, I'm concerned if you're either team. If you're the Rams, I would give the edge out to the Lions if the Lions are the 5th seed and they do end up losing this game. I would give the edge to the Lions again because they've already beaten the Rams. They beat them now 2 consecutive times. Last year's playoffs and week 1 of this season. So I would give the nod to the Rams in that one. Nod to the Lions, in the Super Wild Card Weekend matchup. But when it comes down to it, I am picking the Lions here. I think they need to show grit. They need to show integrity. They need to show what being a Detroit Lion means. The Vikings have a beautiful opportunity to shock the world, and Sam Darnold's playing for a $40 to $50 million contract, long-term contract here. And with J.J. McCarthy potentially getting trade calls this offseason, Sam Darnold needs to prove that he could shock the NFL universe by leading the Vikings to a 15-2 record, being the number 1 seed in the NFC after getting tossed around by the New York Jets, and then the Panthers, and the 49ers. He was a 1 year backup behind Brock Purdy with Kyle Shanahan being the head coach. And now he's on the Vikings, and he was, the projected starter. But, J.J. McCarthy at the time, they were ramping up his first-team reps before the preseason. Then J.J. McCarthy has a tremendous preseason performance, ends up getting hurt. Sam Darnold's the starter, and here we are today. The Vikings are 14-2 and teetering on the number 1 seed in their division and the number 1 seed in the NFC. So there's a lot riding on this game, but I'm taking the Lions, and it's not because of home field advantage. I think the Lions are just the better team. Their defense obviously concerns me because the last 5 games, they've given up 20, 31, 48, 17, and 34 points, and the 17 came on a Bears team that is actually garbage this year. So I'm concerned when the 49ers, who haven't had a great season at all, they put up 34 points. The Buffalo Bills, they put up 48 points. The Green Bay Packers put up 31 points, and then the Bears again put up 20 points. I'm a little bit concerned, and this Vikings team, I mean, they're on a scoring tear right now, 27, 27, 30, 42, 23, 30. Early in the season, they also had a tremendous scoring streak there. But
that's why I say I think Darnold is the key in this game because he had a great game against Green Bay last week. We could say one of his best games of his career and a very important game. The game against the Lions, he was really and I think the factor in their loss. He missed a third down throw to Jefferson that was very makeable, which would have put him in position to win the game, and they wound up losing it with the Detroit going down the field and kicking a field goal. So I see Darnold being key here. The Lions' offense is going to be the Lions' offense. They're going to have to put up a lot of points, and they know it, and they're very capable of doing that. Can the Vikings match that? I'd say the Vikings defense is stronger than the Lions because of all the injuries the Lions have, and I think that and Darnold are the 2 keys in this game.
All right, let's jump into our next topic here. So Joe Burrow's having an MVP-level type season. He leads the NFL in passing touchdowns as well as passing yards. He has one of the highest completion percentages in the NFL. He's on an absolute tear this season, but he won't get MVP votes because his team is right now at 8-8, looking at a potential playoff berth if somehow the Dolphins lose to the Jets this week, as well as the Broncos lose to the Chiefs' backups. And then, obviously, the Broncos would need to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they get the 7 seed, which does not look very likely at this current moment. But Joe Burrow's having a tremendous season. Jamar Chase is going for the Triple Crown as well. So there's a lot happening for the Cincinnati Bengals, except winning football games, especially early on. So if somehow the Broncos lose to the Chiefs' backups, and if somehow the Dolphins lose to the Jets, who have waved the white flag for several weeks at this point, and the Bengals are able to defeat the Steelers at home with Mike Tomlin being a home underdog, should the AFC playoff teams fear the Cincinnati Bengals?
There is one team that fears the Bengals. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. And they don't want to see the Bengals get into the playoffs. So they're playing all their backups in the game on Sunday. So the Broncos will win and the Bengals won't make the playoffs. I think that's how this plays out. I think the Steelers are going to let's see. I think it's unlikely the Bengals are going to make the playoffs anyway. I think the Steelers are going to play hard to try to regain some momentum going into the playoffs. The Bengals, if they beat the Steelers, well, right now they have a 4% chance of making the playoffs. Their odds go up to 7% if they beat the Steelers. If the Jets beat the Dolphins, which I think is unlikely, the chances go up to 17%. If the Bengals win and the Chiefs beat the Broncos, their chances go up to 43%. So the odds aren't good to begin with, and the Chiefs don't want the Bengals in the playoffs. I guarantee you that. It's a shame the Bengals got off to such a slow start because they should have genuinely be feared now, the way they've been playing. Joe Burrow, really, that game last week, wow. He really he was threading the needle there. His accuracy and the zip on his ball was really very impressive. The Bengals are up to number 15 in the power rankings. T. Higgins was the Broncos slayer. Jamar Chase, now a Pro Bowl year. Joe Burrow, he's number 1 in the league in terms of the number of the passing yards and TDs. He only has 8 interceptions all year. The Achilles heel of the Bengals has been their defense, which ranks 27th. They've given up 358 yards a game on average. They're 29th in points allowed at 26.1. They're 24th in passing yards against, 230. They're 21st in rushing yards against, 128. 26th in sacks, 7th in interceptions. Run defense allows 146 yards per game, which is the 5th most in the NFL. So it's the defense that's caused the Bengals to be in this terrible spot. and they got to learn from that mistake and try to pay their players better. I mean, it's going to be hard to bring back both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They have to figure that out. T. Higgins really playing well down the stretch here. And they got to do something on defense. I mean, they can't stop teams.
Well, I think that I'm giving the nod to the Cincinnati Bengals here because I believe in Joe Burrow. He was my MVP candidate last year before he got hurt. And I thought that he would make a serious run this year, and that's why I picked the Bengals to win the Super Bowl in the preseason, because I believed Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, that trio right there, I thought it would be something special, and it turns out it is special, except that their offensive line's not great, but that's expected because the Bengals haven't paid for a great offensive line. They've tried. And injuries and other things, it just hasn't turned out the way that they wanted. And then the defense is literally a sieve. They're 27th in total defense. So they're just terrible. And the running game I think was dead last year. It's 29th this year, but I actually like Chase Brown a lot. They just haven't had a nice number 2, a complimentary back to take them from, bottom 4 in the league to, I don't know, being at least a middle team in the NFL when it comes to running the football like the Bucs have. Bucs have Rashad White as well as Bucky Irving. The Detroit Lions obviously have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Even the Chiefs, they have Pacheco, and they even have Kareem Hunt, who came off the couch. They have a great dynamic duo there, and they tried earlier with Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They tried that, a season ago. So when it comes to this game, though, I will give the nod to the Bengals. It was an absolute shootout. It was a thing of beauty earlier in this season. But, the Bengals were not able to capitalize on some of Russell Wilson's mistakes, and Joe Burrow, I think, had a bad interception in that game as well. So there's an opportunity, and that game ultimately ended up being 44-38. But this one I think is going to be different because at the time, the Steelers actually were doing relatively well. They were coming off of an embarrassing loss against the Browns and a respectable team, and I think the Steelers are very respectable. But normally when a respectable team gets blown out on a national stage, or at least embarrassed on a national stage like they were on Thursday Night Football in the snow against the Browns, then they normally come back and have a nice bounce-back game the following week, and that's exactly what happened. But we have to remember, they just beat the Ravens the week prior to that game, and they also beat the Commanders by 1 point the week prior to that one. So there was an opportunity for Russell Wilson to shine, and he absolutely shone in this game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And then that kind of went to a streak. They defeated the Cleveland Browns in a blowout 13-point victory, and then the slide started to happen. Whenever you have Russell Wilson, there's a slide, whether it's off the cliff, 90-degree fall off, or if it's a nice cascading to the very, very bottom, and then you finally hit rock bottom. And that's what happened in Denver, except it was more like climbing up a hill and falling right back down, because he fell off a cliff entirely that first year, and it was a ugly, ugly showing. I still remember Thursday night game. It was one of the worst games I ever watched. The Colts versus the Denver Broncos, and it was hard to watch because Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson seemingly was trying to put everything onto the football and went like 5 yards. It was a bad showing. I think that was only a field goal game too. Horrible, horrible. And then in 2023, Russell Wilson's stats looked better, but that's because he was playing it safer. And in the second half, his stats also took a decent ding. So it was a lot of the on-script first half. Everything's going nice. Sean Payton's system, it was great. And then the second half, and especially when it matters the most in the fourth quarter, that's where Russell Wilson took his ding. But I was incredibly impressed with the way that Joe Burrow went up against one of the NFL's best defenses in the Denver Broncos and did a tremendous job at shutting them down. Kind of, I would say, because there were moments, game clock management situations late in that game, and especially in overtime, where Zach Taylor could have been better, but when it mattered most, Joe Burrow stepped up and delivered some great throws. I thought it was great, especially, like I mentioned earlier, against that great Denver Broncos defense, which has only allowed, the fifth fewest points at 19.4 this season. And they're also a top 10 scoring team, which is shocking with a rookie at quarterback. But yeah, no, I was very, very impressed that Joe Burrow put on that type of performance. And I think that if the Bengals were the 6 seed or even the 5 seed, I think that Joe Burrow would be number 2 or maybe even number 1 in MVP voting just because of the season he's having. You could see it down below. 4,600 yards, 42 touchdowns. He's tied for the highest PFF grade in the NFL with Lamar Jackson. So the fact that he's having this level of a season, I think that he deserves more MVP votes. I know that the wins aren't there, but it's hard to win when your defense is giving up the type of points and the type of numbers that they're giving, the amount of yards that they're giving up. And we have to remember that this could potentially come down to what happened in week 1, which is they lost to the New England Patriots, but I think I agree with you. I think the Chiefs are scared. They are nervous because after losing to the Patriots, they're like, are the Bengals okay? Joe Burrow doesn't look good. He's gripping his hand again, which is what he did last year before his injury. It's like, is he fully healthy? And then what he does against the Chiefs is they're winning. They're up by 2. And then we have a dumb 4-13 defensive pass interference call, which then sets the Chiefs up for a game-winning field goal. So Joe Burrow did his job perfectly fine. He was able to outplay Mahomes at the time. The Bengals defense came up with a good interception late in that game. But then when it matters most, you have a dumb penalty. It was the reason why I say dumb is because the situation.
He shouldn't have tried for the interception. Just knock the ball down. Right. The game's over.
You go for the game, not for the stat sheet.
It's ridiculous.
The stat sheet. So you had an opportunity to bounce back and defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, and Joe Burrow and the Bengals have been the only team to give Mahomes consistent trouble. That's the big thing. Give them consistent trouble because the Chiefs are now on their way to winning 3 straight Super Bowls. So if the Bengals get in the playoffs and they're the 7th seed, they would end up playing the Buffalo Bills. And how great would a matchup be between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow?
And guess what? Who won the game last time they played in the playoffs?
Burrow and the Bengals.
The Bengals
absolutely crushed them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's when Stephon Diggs got in Josh Allen's face on the sidelines.
At the Bills, which is where this game will be played.
I'm pretty sure it was also in the snow. And on the sideline, you see Stephon Diggs kind of just barking at Josh Allen, which then now we know how that ended. He's no longer on the team, and he's injured currently, but he went over to the Houston Texans. So for me, this is a massive, spot for the Cincinnati Bengals, but they obviously need to beat the Steelers. But to me, it won't matter because I think that when it comes down to the Chiefs-Broncos, the fact that Carson Wentz is going out there and Chris Jones isn't playing and Trent McDuffie's not playing and all these guys aren't playing. Mahomes isn't playing. Kelsey's not playing. It would be a shocking revelation for the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday night to realize, or Sunday afternoon, whenever they play, that they somehow made the playoffs because the Dolphins lost to the Jets and the Broncos somehow lost to the Chiefs' backups. Somehow. So I at this point, they are my Super Bowl pick, but as it currently stands, and we're going to get to picks later on the show, I do not have the Cincinnati Bengals making the playoffs.
No, I don't either. I do have them beating the Steelers. I think they'll beat the Steelers, but I do think that the Broncos are going to beat the Chiefs.
I think that in some games you had to
desperately are going to beat the Jets too. I don't know why people are picking the Jets to win that game. The Jets are a disaster.
I am. Well, I know why. Tua's not playing.
Tua may play.
He's out. He's already out. He was out yesterday, and it got announced yesterday. Snoop Huntley's going to be the quarterback.
Well, Huntley's played well, and when he's been in there recently.
Not going up against the Jets starters. This could be Rodgers' last game. He needs his 500th touchdown pass.
Yeah. Well, maybe he'll get that, but I don't think they're going to win.
Well, we'll see. We're going to take a quick break, but coming up, are the Patriots looking for a new head coach? One in particular, a former player, seems to be interested in getting that job that's currently not open. We'll discuss that, as well as Week 18, the final week of the regular season. We're going to make every single pick, as we always do, as well as I need a bounce-back week for the last week of the Harvey Hot Hand. I desperately need to get a winning week, and I think I got a pretty nice lineup for you. We'll talk about that and debate that and discuss that right after this.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the content.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. It's the last week of the regular season. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So, Mike Vrabel, according to, I want to get the source right, Tony Pauline, I'm going to say that, Pauline of Sportskeeda, reported on Tuesday that people close to Mike Vrabel say that the 49-year-old coach wants to be the next head coach of the New England Patriots. We are currently only 1 year in, not even a full year in. One more week to go. But Jerod Mayo, this is his first year as the head coach of the New England Patriots, and it did not go as planned. They did end up drafting rookie quarterback Drake May, but decided to start Jacoby Brissett, and when that fell apart, 1-5 record, they put him in, and he actually performed relatively well. But somehow the Patriots still have a 3-13 record because their roster is not built very well. But that doesn't seem to deter Mike Vrabel, who just actually finished an interview with the New York Jets today. So according to the reports, Mike Vrabel seems to be interested in reuniting with his old team this time, not as a linebacker, but this time as the head coach for a job that's not open. So here's the question. Should the Patriots fire Jerod Mayo and make Mike Vrabel the next Patriots head coach?
I don't think. I mean, he's only been there 1 year. He's been groomed for this job for a number of years. Kraft is very high on him, was very high on him when they picked him to replace Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time. I don't think it plays well for Vrabel to make it leak it out in the press that he wants to be the Patriots coach when they have a coach that they haven't let go. I think if the Patriots let him go, then he could come out and say, yeah, I'd love to be their coach. As you mentioned, he's 49 years old. He played for the Patriots from 2001 to 2008. They won 3 Super Bowls while he was there. He then went on to coach the Titans from 2018 to 2023, won the AFC South twice, and made the AFC Championship game in 2019-20. Many are calling for Mayo to be fired, but I think Kraft's going to support him. Mayo's job does not seem to be 100%, though, safe. If the Pats do fire Mayo, Vrabel would be a top candidate for sure. Mayo's poor game planning and media missteps have not made it good for him. It's made a bad situation in Foxborough worse, I think. They have little to work on with the offense. If Mayo stays, there are questions about the coaching staff. I think Mayo not sure if he will have a say in the potential coaching changes. He says, I've been in constant communication with ownership, and I'm sure those conversations will be had. The offensive of the Patriots is ranked 30th in total yards. The defense is ranked 23rd in yards allowed. They had a 7th-ranked defense last year, and dropped all the way down to 23rd. I think that probably the offensive coordinator job is a higher risk to be fired than the defensive coordinator. Mayo has not worked with Alex Van Pelt before. He did work with Covington before. So I think if they're going to fire one of those guys, it's probably going to be Alex Van Pelt. Mayo said he's building for the future, the long term. He's pleading for patience. On culture, he said, just because you have a good record doesn't mean you have a good culture, and just because you have a bad record doesn't mean you have a bad culture. So, I don't know. I think the Patriots culture kind of up in the air. There's Keon White making a lot of noise about, maybe he shouldn't be with the Patriots. I think he's got issues with the coaches. So, I think it's kind of a mixed bag in New England right now, but I see Mayo hanging on to his job one more year.
That's interesting, because I'm looking at some of the teams here. They all seemingly have below average or terrible cultures. Las Vegas Raiders, they don't have a good culture. Tennessee Titans, and even the Jacksonville Jaguars. What's going on with Doug Peterson? What's going on with Trevor Lawrence? He had a massive regression this season. What's going on with New England Patriots? What's going on with the Jets? What's going on with the New York Giants? What's going on with the Chicago Bears? What's going on with the Carolina Panthers? All teams that have 3 or 4 wins, and somehow they're not good franchises, and one of the reasons is their roster's not built very well, or they have terrible cultures. The Jets right now have a toxic figurehead. Aaron Rodgers, who's, by the way, on his way out most likely.
That's the worst culture.
That's probably the worst culture. The Chicago Bears have 18 levels of reporting to do. You have to go through this guy and that guy and the other guy, and that's why Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles has a serious issue because he has to report Kevin Warren instead of McCaskey, which he originally was promised, and he wanted to do that. And by the way, you don't have a head coach because you're on an interim head coach who was the passing game coordinator who got promoted into interim OC, who then got promoted into interim head coach. That whole structure is a complete mess. The Raiders, you have a head coach who's not great. Antonio Pierce had one half-good season after Josh McDaniels was just a bad head coach. And then right now, he had the business decisions quote. He had the Mahomes rules quote. There's all these different things. And
He's
right
won
now,
two straight.
His team right now is 4-12.
He won 2 straight.
They're 4-12.
Yeah.
They kicked themselves out of the first overall pick for a quarterback. Yeah. The Tennessee Titans, they're right now doing a live quarterback competition in Week 18. A live quarterback competition. Mason Rudolph and Will Levis will both be playing in this game. That's something the Raiders did in the preseason.
I think that
Jacksonville
both those
Jaguars have Mac Jones and a head coach who should be fired in Doug Peterson. They're a good culture. Yeah, bad record normally means something is really wrong here.
The culture.
Normally. Some are just bad rosters. Like, for instance, Carolina's a bad roster. The Raiders are a bad roster. But add on top of that, just a bad culture in general. For me, though, yeah, hell yeah. Mike Vrabel, come on. Because what the Patriots need is they need a level of accountability that Jerod Mayo doesn't bring at all. He seems to be blame deflecting, sort of like Aaron Rodgers does, but in kind of a different way that seems less prickly. Rodgers is a very prickly guy. Enigma, thinks he's smarter than everybody else, and all these other controversy that goes on, darkness retreats and whatnot, which, by the way, Rodgers said that he was not going to do this offseason. That's a positive sign. So I think that Mike Vrabel will bring a couple things. Once again, he's not really homegrown, but he did win 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots in the early 2000s as one of the key pieces on defense. He even scored a offensive touchdown in one of those Super Bowls. So I think the Patriots fandom would like him. Jerod Mayo, he is homegrown through and through, and he did get brought up because of Robert Kraft saying, you know what, you're going to be our next guy. And we saw that in 2023 with him being like the assistant head coach and getting this massive extension to ultimately be the next head coach of the New England Patriots. But I thought that the Patriots would be around the 6-win mark, and somehow without Bill Belichick, they got worse. They added guys and got worse. It was subtraction by addition. That amazing second-round receiver, Jalen Polk, that the Patriots got, he is graded as the worst wide receiver in the NFL. That's bad. Really, really bad. And he's a second-round pick. You have guys that are going after him, being graded higher and having a bigger impact than Jalen Polk, who also, on top of that, has trouble catching footballs. Kayshon Boutte, which is a massive misstep by Bill Belichick and by Matt Patricia, who was in their doghouse last year, seems out to be a pretty decent player for the Patriots. But in the grand scheme of the NFL, he's not that great. He really isn't. He's made some really good plays, but you're not going to put him over some of the decent receivers. I'll take a bunch of the rookie receivers over him. I'd take Roma Dunze over him. I'd take, obviously, Malik Neighbors. I would take, Ladd McConkey. There's a lot of these guys I would take over Demario Douglas. What's his name? Kayshon Boutte. Kendrick Bourne is their best receiver, and Belichick probably wouldn't have re-signed him. I think that there needs to be a massive culture shift because now the fans are turning on the Patriots. Tavai recently had to go after fans in the stands and call them out mid-game because of how angry they are. And now we have a lot of Patriots players talking to the media about how Patriots fans are spoiled. Well, obviously they're spoiled. They won 6 Super Bowls in a matter of 20 years. Who wouldn't be spoiled in that case? I mean, look at Chiefs fans. They're going crazy because of Mahomes' level of success. But there is some level of truth to the hate and some of the criticism that the Patriots hold. Because how do you go from winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl and making it to 3 straight Super Bowls to now being one of the worst constructed teams in the NFL? How does that possibly happen? It's because you had a head coach at the time who had so much power and he was so much in his ways that you were stuck. And I think that one head coach, the immediate head coach after Jerod Mayo, and this is also with quarterbacks as well, normally that guy goes very quickly. Hell, let's keep it within the New England Patriots realm. Cam Newton went 7-9, and they got off him after one singular season. And he was the guy right after Brady. So maybe I don't think Jerod Mayo is the answer. I think that, is he a good defensive coach? Sure, but being a head coach, and I've said this for a lot of coaches, I think Josh McDaniels was a better coordinator than he was head coach. I think Todd Bowles, although he actually has proven me wrong here, but I think that's just because you have a great system, and that's obviously credit to Todd Bowles for building that system and building that coaching staff. I think that Jerod Mayo, I think, is a better coach or coordinator than he is a head coach. I think that bringing Mike Vrabel in here, who took the Tennessee Titans, and at the time who was viewed as a massive bust in Ryan Tannehill, and made him the number 1 seed in the AFC, and also led him to one AFC championship game, 2 AFC, I think it was 2 AFC championship games. But Ryan Tannehill was his quarterback throughout that time. He also made it to the playoffs, 3 out of the 5 years he was there, 3 out of the 6 years he was there. And then everybody was shocked when he was fired because it's like, why? He has a winning record. He made the playoffs a couple of years ago. Why are we firing him? He's going to be one of the most, he's probably going to have wherever he wants to go, he can go. The Jets just, talk to him. Maybe he's using this as leverage. But I think it would be a massive mistake because Jerod Mayo had no experience, 0 experience. And currently, while he does have a year of experience underneath his belt, it's bad experience. We've seen Mike Vrabel build a positive culture and take the Titans, who were really frauds for a number of years and just a bad team, took him to the number 1 seed when Mahomes was in the league, when Brady was still in the league, but he was in the other conference. Mac Jones during that season, actually, he ended up beating them in that game. But still, Mac Jones was on a tear. Patriots had a pretty decent record. Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Tua, all of them in the league. And somehow the Titans were the number 1 seed. Mike Vrabel and that system did that. I don't see Jerod Mayo doing that with this current construction of the Patriots.
We'll see. I will just comment that Tayshaun Boutte played for Bill O'Brien, offensive coordinator, not Matt Patricia.
Oh, excuse me. My fault.
Yeah.
My fault.
I don't know. I still don't think Mayo's going to lose his job. He only had one season. I'm not saying he
will, but should he?
And maybe he should. Maybe he should. And maybe the Patriots will have yet another season next year that will be poor. And if they do, then probably Mayo will be gone. But it'll be a shame because they could lose out on Vrabel. He's going to get a job. He'll pretty much have his pick of which team he wants to go to. And they'll lock him up for probably 3 to 5 years. So we'll have to see.
I understand the continuity argument where it's like young players, young team, especially young quarterback. You want continuity because that's what Mac Jones didn't have. He had Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick. Then he had Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Mm-hmm. Then it was Bill Belichick and Bill O'Brien. There was no consistency. But this one, you want to at least have a good start. And Mac Jones did have a good start, and then it fell off. Right now, you're at a very bad start. Very bad start. And I think that while Ramondre Stevenson is a good running back, he has bricks for hands. He can't catch.
It's too bad.
He fumbles. He's a good back, but he just needs to hold on to the football, and then he would be really good.
And Drake May has to learn how to not throw so many interceptions and fumble the ball.
He should get more criticism than he has gotten. I understand that his supporting cast
the offensive line
bad.
Is terrible, and he has no supporting cast.
I still say.
They get him some
Unless
weapons.
You're a diehard
get him
Patriots
some
fan.
weapons. He's got to cut down on the turnovers.
I've said this, and I'll say it again. Unless you're a diehard Patriots fan, you cannot name a single player on the offensive line besides Mike Owenu. You can't.
Lowe.
Vidarian Lowe. I'm sure Vikings fans.
Whatever happened to Strange, man? It's been a strange career for him. He's been hurt the whole time.
Well, not the whole time.
Pretty much. He's been hurt a lot.
I think what?
What do you mean?
Ben
games
Brown,
he played
I think,
this
is the
year?
center.
1 or 2.
I'm not sure. I don't have his game list in front of me. But it's time. Final regular season games, I should say. Week 18. Oh, that's the Harvey Hot Hand. We make the picks for every single game this week. So let's jump right into it with my Week 18 picks. I had a really good money line record this past week. Week 17, I went 14-2. Point spread, though, is 500. Not great. I want to get rid of the topic bar real quick, so excuse me. There we go. So, yeah. Not great on the point spread. I went 500 again, but money line, I'll take the 14-2 light work. So let's jump right into it with Saturday's game. The Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. This is an absurdly high spread for the Baltimore Ravens. I think this is the largest one we've had all year at 19.5. But give it to me. I think the Browns are reeling right now. I think they're going to start DTR once again, which if they do that, expect zero offense from the Cleveland Browns. The Baltimore Ravens, they're still playing for their seeding in the playoffs right now because I think the Steelers have a shot if they beat the Bengals to claim back that number 3 seed. I would need to obviously look at the tiebreakers and all of that for that situation. But the Ravens are still playing for their seeding. They're still playing for the number 3 seed, and there's an opportunity to do that with a win over the Cleveland Browns, and I think they will and cover the massive point spread. I just think that the way the defense has played recently and the way that the offense has been dominant the entire season, I do not expect the Cleveland Browns to catch up whatsoever or keep this game relatively competitive. I'll take a 20-point win, hands down. Give me the Ravens. Give me the point spread. Bengals at Steelers. Give me the Bengals minus 2.5 points. This is Joe Burrow's time to shine. If they're going to make the playoffs, they're literally on their last legs. This is the last hope for the Cincinnati Bengals. They need to get this win, and I do think they will. I understand that Mike Tomlin, home underdogs, he's insane as a home underdog, but I think the Bengals, the way they're playing right now, they're on a 4-game winning streak. Joe Burrow's having MVP level type of a season this year. I'll take him, and I'll take the minus 2.5 point spread. Give me the Bengals on the road to beat and cover the point spread against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next one is the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Last week was bad. Last week was really, really bad for Carolina. I had them covering an 8.5 point spread, and they got blown out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This time, I'm taking the rookie Michael Penix and the Atlanta Falcons, who are still fighting for their playoff hopes, fighting for their playoff chances. I'll take them to cover and win this game. I think that without Chuba Hubbard out there, running back for the Carolina Panthers, this offense does not work as efficiently as it has been, when Bryce Young came back. And it showed last week against a Bucs defense that's not great. It's like middle of the pack. I think the Falcons this time around, though, they're going to do a number on the Carolina Panthers. Give me the rookie Michael Penix. Give me the minus 7.5 points. And give me the Falcons for the win. The next one is the Washington Commanders against the Dallas Cowboys. Washington's favored by 6.5. Give me the Commanders and give me the points here. Yes, they did secure up a playoff spot, and they're going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who have been playing better, and the defense has been playing better. But I think that the Commanders need to get their revenge. They were 10.5-point favorites the last time these teams played, and the Cowboys kept it close and ended up actually upsetting the Washington Commanders. So give me the Commanders in a... And by the way, Zach Ertz also, we talk about incentives. This is an incentive game. Zach Ertz, I think, needs 9 catches and 70 or 90 yards to get like $250K each. So he's right now on an incentive. Will he get that amount? Probably not. But I do think that incentives do matter in some of these games. So I'll take the Commanders. I'll take the points on the road against the Cowboys. Next one is the Bears at the Green Bay Packers. Give me the Packers and give me the points. This completes a season where people expected the Browns to make the playoffs, to win a couple playoff games, to potentially make the Super Bowl in some cases, in some analysts' eyes. But over here on the Harvey Hour, we were a little bit more, I want to say, realistic. I had them going 7-10. You had them going 5-12. Well, and I know how you pick these games, if we have it like it probably will go, they will end up at a 4-13 record, meaning you, after getting ripped on by thousands of people, you'll end up being absolutely correct. And in fact, you had a more positive outlook on the Bears season than what reality actually said. So give me the Packers here to blow out these Chicago Bears. They're reeling this year. It's bad. They have a coaching issue. They need to find a culture changer. I still think Mike Vrabel is the guy to change the Chicago Bears around, at least for the foreseeable future. He might not be the end-all, be-all answer, but I think that for short term, Mike Vrabel's the guy. Let's go to the next one. The Texans at the Titans. If the Texans lose a live quarterback battle on the other side of the field, I'm seriously concerned, and I'm afraid that they'll get blown out by whatever 5 seed they'll play in the first round of Super Wildcard Weekend. The Titans are having a live quarterback battle between Mason Rudolph and Will Levis in this game. And if somehow, and the Texans are underdogs in this game, if they lose, and I think D'Amico Ryan said that the starters are playing, which is also absurd how they're not favorites in this game. If the Texans somehow lose this game, red lights go off, sirens blast. I'm picking whoever's the 5 seed over the Texans in round 1 of the playoffs. I'm taking this strictly out of principle, out of hope that the Texans are not, complete frauds. And CJ Stroud, he's having a sophomore slump. He needs to get out of it. Give me the Texans somehow in an upset over the Tennessee Titans at home. Or on the road, rather. Let's go to the next one. Jaguars at the Colts. It looks like Anthony Richardson probably won't go in this game. Mac Jones, obviously the starting quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were obviously eliminated from the playoffs. They got eliminated a while ago. I'm not taking Mac Jones to win here, but I will take him to keep the game close. And I do think this game is a bit of a crapshoot because I don't think these offenses will put up points at all. I think that both offenses are in serious, dire need of some sort of reboot. Could it be from the coaching staff? Maybe, although I think Shane Steichen's respectable. I think he doesn't have a quarterback that can complete passes or a relatively young one who could be a little bit mobile. Joe Flacco obviously isn't that in today's day and age. And Mac Jones, he's an okay quarterback, backup quarterback. He's not starter level anymore. I expect him to keep the game close. I'll take the Colts to win, Jacksonville to cover the plus 4.5 point spread. Next one is the Bills at the Patriots. This point spread has been all over the place. It's been 3.5, it's been 2.5, it's been 3. I will take the Bills with Josh Allen playing a snap. Maybe he just takes a kneel. Maybe he just goes out there the first singular play and throws one pass and then benches himself maybe. I'm not sure, but he will be playing in some length of time in this game. So give me Josh Allen for that drive or whatever he has. I'll take them. I just think the Patriots are a terrible team this year. They got to find something to right this ship, and it's not starting in Week 18 of the 2024 NFL season. It'll be sometime in the offseason and sometime next year that they'll hopefully find some footing here. But when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, their seeding's not going to change. Josh Allen's MVP odds, unless he plays the full game and absolutely balls out, it can only hurt, and that's why I think Josh Allen maybe should play in this game, but he has a broken left hand or something like that. He's playing on a massive injury in his non-throwing hand, so maybe it is a good idea to rest, but he does want that streak to continue, his start streak to continue. But, I'm taking the Bills here based on just the fact that they're the better team, even when they have their backups out there. The Patriots are just a terrible team, horrible surrounding cast, running backs who have bricks for hands. It's just bad. Drake May's promising, but he needs talent around him. And the defense, like we've said all year, massively regressed. They've moved down 16 spots, their defense has, from last year. It's bad. Give me the Bills. Give me the -3 on the road to beat the Patriots. Next one is the Giants at the Eagles. It'll be the Giants starters probably against the Eagles backups, and I still think the Eagles backups are better than the Giants starters. The Giants absolutely screwed themselves over last week with a shocking win over the Indianapolis Colts, which took them out of the number 1 pick in the draft. I think the Eagles, though, they're the better team, division rival. Give me the better team, better head coach, better coaching staff. I'll take them over the New York Giants to cover the -2.5. It's a field goal game. I'll take the Eagles to win and cover. Next one is the Saints at the Buccaneers. This has playoff implications, and this also has incentive implications for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Spencer Rattler will be the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints in this week. And the last time the Bucs faced Spencer Rattler, they put up 51 points and only allowed, 24 or 27 points. Absolutely crushed the New Orleans Saints last time. So give me the Bucs. Give me the -14.5 point spread. I'll take it all day, every day. Next one is the Chiefs at the Broncos, and this is where the Bengals' playoff hopes end. Because, yes, while I do think that the Chiefs and their backups could pose a threat to the Broncos, and just for my Super Bowl pick, I hope the Chiefs somehow do pull off this upset. I don't realistically seeing it happen here. Bo Nix and this offense is a top 10 offense in the league. Their defense is one of the best in the NFL. And a -10.5 point spread for this Broncos team is interesting, but because the Chiefs are playing their backups, I'll take the Broncos, who are playing their starters, because they still have, playoff implications in this game, and also incentive implications for Cortland Sutton. Give me the Broncos and give me the -10.5 point spread. They'll beat the Chiefs at home. The Chargers at the Raiders. Give me the Chargers here. The Chargers could move in their seeding. If they win and the Steelers lose, they can move up into the 5 seed and actually play the Houston Texans in round 1, which is probably their best, because I don't think the Chargers want to go up against John Harbaugh, again in the Harbaugh Bowl and play against his brother for the 3rd time and probably lose another time. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I will take Jim Harbaugh and this Chargers team to crush the Las Vegas Raiders in this Week 18 matchup. Give me the Chargers and give me the points here. The next one is the Seahawks at the Rams. This one also has incentive implications when it comes to Geno Smith. He needs, a 69.8% completion percentage. He needs 185 yards, and he needs a win in order to get, I think, $250,000. So this has massive implication when it comes to Geno Smith and getting some money there. So I think that, and also Jimmy Garoppolo and Cooper Kupp, Jimmy Garoppolo will start this game. Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Havenstein, and a bunch of the other big-time starters for the Rams, important starters for the Rams, they'll be out for this game. So give me the Seahawks, give me the points. I'll take them to win and cover the -6.5 on the road. Next one is the Dolphins at the Jets. The Dolphins are starting Snoop Huntley at quarterback, and they also still have playoff hopes. But I think the Jets are going to pull out. And by the way, I will throw this out here. When I made this graphic, the Jets were favored. Now the Jets are underdogs in this game. I think they're half-point underdogs. But to me, it doesn't really matter. 1.5 points is essentially, it doesn't matter if they're positive or negative. It doesn't matter to me. So the Jets, at this current time, when I made this graphic about an hour, 2 hours ago, they are 1.5 point favorites in this one, and I'll take it all day, every day. Because Rodgers is playing for something. There's a lot riding on the line, specifically for Aaron Rodgers and maybe for the Jets. Because Rodgers needs one more touchdown to get his 500th career touchdown. Devontae Adams has caught his 200th and his 400th and could potentially catch his 500th touchdown pass from Aaron Rodgers' 500th touchdown pass. So there's an opportunity for history to be made here when it comes to those two, quarterback and wide receiver. So when it comes to that, and also Rodgers saying that this could be his final game in the NFL, there's a lot riding on it. And I think Rodgers is going to go out there. He'll probably throw 40 times, try to get over 300 yards for, the second time this season, and the second time in 1,000 days he's done it. So give me the Jets. Give me them in an upset victory, or at the time upset victory over the Miami Dolphins. Let's go this one. I know Brock Purdy's out. I know Deebo Samuel's out. I know a bunch of the starters are probably going to rest or not play very well. Doesn't matter to me. I think the Arizona Cardinals are that bad of a team. And there's I think there's some incentives with Kyler Murray rushing touchdowns here. But what I saw against the Detroit Lions last week, Josh Dobbs making some pretty nice throws. And also we have to remember his first game with the Minnesota Vikings, the Pastronaut, absolutely tearing it up in game 1. Give me the Pastronaut to somehow pull off this upset. I don't care. I don't care that the Cardinals are favored in this game. Give me the Pastronaut. 49ers upset over the Cardinals, and obviously cover a plus 4.5. And finally, we talked about this game earlier on in the show. Vikings at the Lions. This game has so much riding on it. The Lions desperately need this victory because they are so banged up. They need a week of rest. Give me the Lions, minus 2.5 point favorites. They already beat them once. This season. And with the way Jared Goff has been playing, I know Sam Darnold's had a tremendous year, and he's probably worth the $40 million or even more that he's probably worth at this current time. Give me the Lions. They're the better team, the better offense. Give me it all. I'll take the Lions, minus 2.5 point favorites. I'll take them and the point. I'll take them to win, and they also cover the point spread. And those are my Week 18 picks.
Okay, well, some interesting picks there, Nate. Take a look at my picks. I had a good week last week, 14-2. Also, I was 10-6 on the point spread. I'm getting closer to you on the point spread there, Nate.
One more week.
Yeah, this is a week. If I beat you by 3 games behind right now in the point spread. I don't think I'll catch you in the win-loss, but 67% winning percentage, much better than the best I've ever done. So I'm pretty happy with it. Let's hope I can build on it in the last week of the season. So let's get going here. The Browns against the Ravens. The Ravens prohibitive favorite here, 11-5, number 6 in the power ranking against the hapless Browns, 3-13, 30th in the power ranking. I do think the 19-point spread is too high. I think the Ravens will get out to a big lead, and they're going to sit their players, and they'll win by 14 or so. I don't think it's going to be a 19.5-point win. The Bengals against the Steelers. I like the Bengals to win. They have everything to play for. They won't know how the Chiefs-Broncos game comes out, and they won't know about the Dolphins-Jets game, which is a 4 o'clock game. So they're going to be playing hard, and I do think they can beat the Steelers, who are sliding, as I predicted earlier on. I had them dropping out of the lead in the the AFC North, and the Ravens winning the crown there, and I think that's what's going to happen. I do think the Bengals will cover the point spread. The Carolina Panthers against the Falcons. Falcons not a team I like. I think they have a terrible front office. The way they handled the quarterback situation here now with Penix starting and the $45 million quarterback sitting on the bench is just poor management, I think. The 8-8 Falcons, I think, will win the game, but I don't think they're going to cover the point spread. I think it'll be a close game with the Panthers and Bryce Young playing better, although they got pounded by the Tampa. But in previous games, they've been playing better, and I think they're going to make it competitive here. But I do think the Falcons find a way to win but not cover. The Commanders against the Cowboys. I like the Commanders in this game, 6.5 point spread. I think they'll cover that. They're 11-5 now with 8 in the power ranking, having a great season. The Cowboys, a very disappointing season for them with Prescott getting hurt. They're 7-9, 21st in the power ranking. Nothing really to play for here. I like the Commanders on the road to beat the Cowboys. Bears against Green Bay. We talked about early before the season started. I didn't think the Bears would do much, and they've proven that. And I took some real heat for it, but now some people are coming back in to defend me and say I was okay. So I thank you for that. And I predicted that they would have a very poor season, and I didn't think it would be this bad, actually. And the way the front office and the coaching and all of that, it's a disaster for the Bears. They're going to get a new head coach. I don't know about the GM. He may wind up quitting. I see the Green Bay Packers beating them and covering the 10.5 point spread. In this game, the Packers, number 7 in the power ranking, 11-5 record. I'm not sure they looked like they were on a huge roll here. And then they got beat by the Vikings, and I think it took a little luster off of their star. So we'll have to see what happens here getting into the playoffs, how the Packers do. The Texans against the Titans. I have the Titans winning this game. I think the Rudolph Levis competition I think both those guys are going to try to play hard to win. The Texans have nothing to play for here. I think while they may be starting some of their starters, they'll pull them out of the game well before the game's over. And I think the Texans wind up 9-8. They still wind up winning the division, which doesn't say much about their division. The Jaguars against the Colts. I have the Colts winning this game and covering the point spread. The Jaguars, a pitiful season. Peterson probably should get fired at the end of the season. The Colts, on the other hand, Richardson's won't be playing. Will be Flacco out there, although I understand the Colts are committed to Richardson for next year. The Buffalo Bills against the Patriots. I have the Bills winning this game and covering the point spread. Even if Josh Allen sits, most of the game, the Patriots just a very poor season. The bright spot is Drake May. Played well despite having not really nothing around him. The defense taking a big step back, which was unexpected and really says something about Mayo's coaching because they have basically the same players. So I think he hangs on to his job, as we talked about before, but he better make some big improvements next year or he won't be around. The Giants against the Eagles, I agree with you, even with the Eagles' backup players, I think they beat the Giants, even though the Giants won a game last week against the Colts. Giants 3-13, almost last in the power rankings. The Eagles having nothing to play for here, resting their players, smart move, having played 12 games since their bye in Week 5. I see them winning this game. They're at home and lines them up nicely for the playoffs. The Saints against the Bucs. I have the Bucs winning this game and covering the point spread at 14.5. The Saints hapless. Spencer Rattler, I watched him play a few games here, and he's nothing special. And he won't have any players out there helping him. So the Saints, pitiful season, 5-11 right now. The Bucs got to have this game to win the division and get into the playoffs. Bucky Irving, what a find for them. He's had a very nice year. He and White, a dynamic duo now at running, which has been a real problem for the Bucs. They seem to have found something there. Evans having a nice season now back from his hamstring injury, going for the 1,000 yards. He's had every year of his career. So I like the Bucs in this game. Kansas City at Broncos. I like as I talked about, the Kansas City Chiefs don't want to see the Bengals in the playoffs. They're resting all their players. The Broncos playing all their starters. Got to have this game to get in the playoffs. I see them winning the game. Whether they cover that 10.5 point spread, I'm not so sure, but I'm saying they will. I think they win and get into the playoffs, and nicely deserved. I think they deserve to be in the playoffs the way that Sean Payton has coached the team and the way the rookie quarterback Nix has played. The Chargers against the Raiders. The Chargers at 10-6, 9 in the power rankings. The Raiders, nothing to play for, 4-12, 27th in the power ranking. Culture problems there, coaching problems there. If they won their last 2, they're going to try to win the last 3 to make it look good going into the offseason, and trying to Antonio Pierce trying to hang on to his job. But I see the Chargers winning and covering the point spread. Seahawks against the Rams. The Rams resting most of their players too. They're at 10-6, 12 in the power rankings, locked up a playoff spot. The Seahawks out of it. I think they wind up winning on the road with a 6.5 point spread. Geno Smith playing the whole game. He's got an incentive to win there. The Dolphins at the Jets. Despite Tua being out and Huntley being in, I think the Jets have given up. I think Aaron Rodgers will try to get one passing touchdown to reach 500. Whether he's done or not remains to be seen. The Jets 26 in the power ranking, 4-12, a disastrous season. The Dolphins still with a whisper of a hope of making the playoffs. I think they win this game. San Francisco at the Cardinals. I like the Cardinals to win and cover the point spread, 4.5. Brock Purdy not playing. The game of the week and maybe the game of the season, the Vikings at the Lions. We talked about this game. I like the Lions to win 2.5, but it's a tough one to pick, and the Vikings could wind up winning it. Those are my picks.
Well, there we go. All right, it's time for now the best topic, my favorite topic of this show. We always do this on every Friday throughout the NFL season. It's my Harvey Hot Hand. For those who don't know what the Harvey Hot Hand is, it's where I pick the 5 teams and the 5 games you should bet on if you are sports betting. Okay week last week. By okay week, I mean we went 1-4 again. I'm 47-44 overall. Not a great year this year. I went 62% last year, and now it's looking like I'm about 51%. But this is a bounce back week. I feel really confident. Really confident. Let's begin with the first one of the week.
Saints at Buccaneers.
So Baker Mayfield and the Bucs are looking to make the playoffs once again, and Baker Mayfield is on an absolute tear. Nearly 4,300 passing yards, 39 touchdowns, and a near 72% completion rate. This is an incentive game for Mike Evans, and I know for a fact Baker Mayfield wants him to get this incentive. He needs 85 yards to reach 1,000 yards for the season, which would tie him with Jerry Rice for 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons, which is obviously tied for the most all-time. When you tie a Jerry Rice record, you're one of the greatest of whatever you're doing, probably a receiver of all time. So I think he does get the incentive. I do think the Bucs come out here with a big-time victory. The Saints are the only team to get shut out the entire year. Not a single other team put up 0 points in a game. But don't worry, the Saints led by Spencer Rattler did. And the last time these teams played, the Bucs won 51-27, and the Bucs had 594 total yards in that game. 317 passing and 277 rushing. For a team that has not been a good running football team the past several seasons, this is their best running season in several years. I'll take the Bucs with a massive 17-point victory. They cover the minus 14.5 point spread. They win 34-17. Next one.
Chargers at Raiders.
Let's go with this one. Chargers are the best scoring defense in the NFL, allowing only 17.1 points allowed per game. The Raiders average 18.1 points per game for the season and 17.2 points per game in the last 7 games. The Chargers are 8-2 in games allowing 17 points or less. This is going to be a massive, big-time spot for the Chargers, but because I do think that Aiden O'Connell's playing better, and the Chargers, they might be playing very, very hard. It's a divisional game. The Chargers are 11-4-1 against the spread this season and 6-2 against the spread at home. This is a big-time spot for the Chargers because if they do win this game, they could move into the 5 seed if the Steelers lose, which is what I have happening. I have the Bengals beating the Steelers. The Chargers could move into the 5 seed, which would make them play the Texans instead of the Baltimore Ravens, which obviously is an incredibly, more difficult matchup going against the Baltimore Ravens at the 3 seed when you're the 6 seed than going to play Houston, who they look like big-time frauds, but they're in one of the worst divisions of football, probably the worst division of football, so they obviously get a nice division win there. So it'll be a much easier matchup for the Chargers, and they could win a playoff game in Harbaugh's first year coaching the team if they do win this game and the Steelers lose. I have the Chargers winning, covering a minus 4.5 point spread. They win 27-21. Big-time victory for them. Next one.
Texans at Titans.
Give me the Texans here. They got embarrassed by the Chiefs on Christmas. Only points the entire game was off of Derrick Henry's safety. Normally, Respectable teams, if they get embarrassed on the national stage, they normally bounce back the following game and look like a decent team like we always knew them to be. And I think the Texans are in prime position to do that. And also, if the Texans don't want to be called frauds or pushovers, they need to put up a dominant performance against the Tennessee Titans here. And also, I mentioned this earlier on in the show, the Titans are having a live quarterback competition, not in practice, in this game, in Week 18, because they are that bad. Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, by the way, two not good quarterbacks, are going to be in a live quarterback competition with Will Levis starting the game. So if you somehow lose to this Tennessee Titans team, you will get blown out by whatever fifth seed comes your way, because that just proves how you are a big false team. And guess what? Maybe the NFL needs to change its division rules, because a 9-7, or what would be a 9-18 if you lose to the Titans, and you're probably going to get blown out by whatever team you play. Maybe division winners shouldn't just automatically get a home playoff game, because, my God, the Texans have looked terrible this year. That offensive line is a sieve, and C.J. Stroud's having a massive sophomore slump. So they need to do some soul searching if they want to make a decent playoff run, because they're not true contenders, and they're definitely not making a Super Bowl, and for sure not winning it. But let's go with the next one here.
Vikings at Lions.
Give me this one. Big time matchup. All cards are pushed to the middle of the table with the number 1 seed on the line and winning your division in the NFC North. You played starters last week, and that showed resilience and hopefully a level of consistency even when you're all banged up. Now it's time to show up against a very formidable opponent in the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota has been shaky against really inferior teams this season. A 5-point win over Jacksonville, where you only scored 12 points, and the only touchdown was on a Mac Jones scramble. I mean, how do you possibly do that? You had a 3-point overtime win against Chicago, a 3-point win over Seattle, which was Sam Darnold had a great roll to his left, step up and make a great throw, and you had a 1-point win over Arizona. Very shaky against inferior teams. My guess is there'll be no defense played at all in this game. Just like San Francisco-Detroit game. I mean, there probably will be no defense at all. The Lions are the best offense in the NFL. They score over 33 points per game and have the 9th best scoring defense in the NFL. And the Lions also already beat the Vikings in an earlier matchup in Minnesota. And now Detroit's playing on their own home turf. Give me the Lions minus 2.5. I'll take the points. And they win 38-35. They need this. They desperately need it. Cards pushed to the table. And the final pick of the 2024-2025 regular season, Harvey Hot Hand. This topic will be done after this week. The final pick is
Giants at Eagles.
Revenge time, Eagles. They decided to sit some of their starters, most notably Saquon Barkley. But my guess is it won't make much of a difference. The Giants are on the brink of doing something that they've never done in their franchise's history. Go winless against their own division. And the Eagles have an opportunity to do that right here, right now. And I think with Saquon out there, they definitely would have done it. Now I think they will just do it. And it's only minus 2.5, so that's an easy point spread. Field goal wins the game. Field goal makes me cover. The Giants have screwed themselves over by their shocking upset victory over the Indianapolis Colts last week, making them drop out of the number 1 overall draft pick. The Giants are not good against the spread, and especially in their last 11 games, they're 2-9 against the spread here. Give me the Eagles. I don't care if it's the backups. I really don't. I think the backups for the Eagles are going to be perfectly fine. Give me the backups for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll take the Eagles to cover the minus 2.5 point spread, defeat the Giants 23-14, and those are my Harvey Hot Hand picks for Week 18, the final one of the 2024-2025 NFL season. As always, I go to you for be my consultant. Part 2. Tell me which one that you should. Which one I should switch for whatever one you like more.
Okay, well, I think they look pretty good. I think you're out on a limb a little bit with the Vikings, Lions. You're a big Lions fan, so I guess I understand why you picked there. And I think the Texans Titans game, I might have subbed in the Bears Green Bay. I think Green Bay is going to blow out the Bears. I think that would have been an easier pick.
So that would be what, Houston or Detroit?
The Detroit one. I would have subbed that one.
So then what about Houston?
Houston, I think I would have gone with Kansas City Broncos.
You think so? Denver minus 10.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe. I'm sorry. No, you picked Bucks. You've got Bucks Saints there.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. So.
I would sub in the Kansas City Broncos game for the.
So you think the Titans are really going to win? You're that heavy on the Titans.
I think the Texans are going to sit their players after a quarter or so. After a quarter or so, they're going to start them, but I think they're going to sit them.
So you think that Davis Mills can't lead backups like Joe Mechie and other those?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the Texans. I think they're.
But you're saying that Denver's going to blow out KC.
Well, 10 points.
That's a blowout.
10.5.
It's double digits. It would need to be an 11-point victory for both these teams. Now, the Green Bay, I agree with you. I agree with you that I picked Green Bay to cover. I don't agree with it that I would pick it over Detroit -2.5. Because what are the chances that Detroit doesn't win by, like, let's say Detroit wins. What's the chance that they don't win by a field goal? I mean, it already came down to a 2-point game, but how often are there 2-point games?
I'm thinking the Vikings might be able to win this game.
Well, you picked Detroit.
I know, but I told you, I think it's a toss-up. I think
That's
it's
why
closer
it's
than
2.5.
I think it's closer than 2.5.
Well, on neutral field, Vikings are favored by a half point. It's just because you get 3 for being home field.
Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps up the regular season for us here at the Harvey Hour. That wraps up the regular season for our picks. The final 16 games have been booked. They've been placed. And it's time to see where we are by the end of the regular season. The playoffs start next week, Super Wild Card Weekend. There are no days off when it comes to the NFL, except when it comes to the Pro Bowl games, which is an abomination of fan service, in my opinion. Just like the NBA All-Star Game, the MLB All-Star Game holds minimal value, but still has some value. And the Pro Bowl has amounted to nothing because the Pro Bowlers last year, the fill-ins, we had Tyler Huntley as a fill-in for the Pro Bowl. So technically, he's a Pro Bowler. So, yeah, yikes. But yeah, next Friday, we make our wild card predictions, opening of the playoff week already. But Tuesday, we'll cover all of Week 18, all of Week 18 storylines, and we'll talk about all of that on Tuesday. So make sure you're here, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Right, Grandpa?
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with